In thousands of cities and towns all over America, as sure a sign of spring as the greening of the trees is the whistle of the calliope and the raspy voice of the barker, as the circus, the carnival, and the sideshow begin another season. Tonight, I'm going to take you back over 100 years to the days of P.T. Barnum, his sideshow, and his human oddities. I'm going to introduce you to some extraordinary people with extraordinary, heroic stories to tell. Real people like you and me, but different. Very special people, like Tom Thumb, who was only 25 inches tall, yet sang and danced so delightfully that he became the most beloved performer of his day. Chang and Eng, so famous that all joined twins are called Siamese because of them. The beautiful Hilton sisters, who, though linked together like Chang and Eng, charmed audiences with their lovely voices. The skeleton man, Pete Robinson, and the fat lady, Bunny Smith, who proved love conquers all. Robert Wadlow, almost 9 feet tall, the tallest man who ever lived. John Merrick, known as the Elephant Man, so monstrous looking he had to hide his face behind a mask. And finally, Julia Pastrana, whose voice and story continues to fascinate and touch us 100 years after her death. It's been said there is a quality of legend about the people you're about to meet. They're like characters in a fairy tale who triumph over disasters that would defeat most of us. Well, these stories may sound like fairy tales, but every one of them is true. Stranger than fiction is the story of Robert Wadlow, who was born in Alton, Illinois in 1918. At first, there was absolutely no indication that he was fated to become the tallest man that ever lived. By the time he was 10, he was 6 feet 5 inches tall and weighed 210 pounds. When Robert was 13, he joined the Boy Scouts. At 7 feet 4 inches tall, he was not only the tallest Boy Scout in the world, but one of the world's tallest human beings. More than anything, he wanted to be like other boys. He wanted to go to college to become a lawyer. By the time he had graduated from high school, he was 8 feet 3 1/2 inches tall and still growing. He was determined to carry out his plan of becoming a lawyer, and he entered college. By now, he weighed over 400 pounds, and his bones were fragile. College was becoming impossible. An ordinary chair would not hold him. He had trouble handling an ordinary-sized fountain pen. Getting to class in time from one building to another was a problem. In winter, with ice on the ground, the walking was especially risky. Because of these insurmountable difficulties, Wadlow left college, but he remained determined to make his own way. Because of his 37 AA shoe size, he was a natural for a promotional campaign for the Peters Shoe Company of St. Louis. He seized on the idea of having a shoe store of his own. To raise money for it, he and his father made appearances with the circus. Even though he knew he was a human oddity, he had an innate sense of dignity. The circus wanted him to dress up in a costume that would exaggerate his height. He refused and wore an ordinary business suit. He was as kind as he was tall, and the people loved him. On his 21st birthday, he measured over 8 feet 11 inches, almost 9 feet, and he was still growing. He prayed for it to stop. His legs began to give way, so he had to use a cane in order to walk. Because of Wadlow's rapid growth, it was hard for him to feel what was happening in his extremities. In 1940, he was wearing a brace to strengthen a weak ankle. The brace hadn't been fitted correctly, and it rubbed the ankle raw, causing an infection. It was only discovered when he began to run a high fever, and by then, it was too late. Robert Wadlow, the tallest man in medical history, died of an infection at the age of 22. Robert Wadlow's enormous height had been caused by an abnormal pituitary gland. Today, doctors might be able to help someone like Robert, but 40 years ago, his tragic end was inevitable. It was once also inevitable that twins linked together were joined for life. Thanks to the advances of medical science, Siamese twins are a thing of the past. Like normal identical twins, they are products of a fertilized egg that divides in two. Only in the case of Siamese twins, the division isn't complete. They are born joined together. Since the 1950s, surgeons have been able to separate them successfully. This operation wasn't possible in the case of Chang and Eng. Born in Siam in 1811, they were the most famous Siamese twins that ever lived. The band that tied them together was 5 inches long and as thick as a forearm. An artery ran through it, linking their circulatory systems. When Chang and Eng were in their teens, they were brought to the United States and became overnight celebrities. Their fame spread worldwide. Onlookers would pay any price to see them, and the money rolled in. The twins had saved $60,000, a fortune in those days. They bought land in Wilkesboro, built a house, and at the age of 29, settled down to become farmers. The North Carolina legislature passed an act making them honorary citizens. They had no family name, so they adopted the name of a friend and became Chang and Eng Bunker. At a farmer's wedding, the twins met 19-year-old Sally and her sister, 20-year-old Adelaide Yates. They courted them and proposed marriage. Before they married, Chang and Eng wanted an operation to separate them. The sisters, fearing their possible death, pleaded with them not to attempt it. We want you as you are, alive, not dead. They married and built 2 separate homes, one for each family. The twins spent 3 days in one house, the next 3 days in the other. The following year, each bride gave birth to a baby daughter, one within a week of the other. The families kept growing. Their children were attractive and intelligent and went on to lead normal lives and have normal families. In time, the twins had between them 21 children. Today, there are close to 1,000 living descendants scattered over the United States. Chang and Eng led happy, fulfilled lives. That wasn't true of Daisy and Violet Hilton, the most successful and certainly the most beautiful of the Siamese twins. Born in England in 1908, they were literally sold into slavery by their mother when they were 2 weeks old. They were joined at the spine and considered rare attractions. By the age of 3, they were being exhibited in sideshows. They learned to become entertainers and were so successful that they were earning $5,000 a week in nightclubs and vaudeville before they were 21 years old.
Keep one sweetheart on your mind, the kind that say they don't fall the hardest of all. So never, never, no, never, 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 no, never, never, never say you'll never.